welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and for the next hour, we are going to learn how we can help save the planet in so many words. But, as usual, if you have a question for our wonderful guests, whom you will meet momentarily, you could always give us a call here in the studio at 781-270-9199, or if you think of a question later on, suggestion for a future topic, you could always email me at talk@bcattv.org. And as always, I want to thank the crew for this evening. We have Chris Flaherty, who is a staff member here, making sure that everything runs smoothly. Thank you, Chris. We also have many, many volunteers here this evening, well, maybe just one many, who have given up their Wednesday evening to come help me out, and I definitely appreciate their efforts. We have Colleen Moore, Stephanie Floridas, and Jolie Atwood, and I think Tatiana Hawkins is also here. So thank you everyone for coming and hanging out at BCAT and helping at the show. And last but definitely not least, I want to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy Date Night. Hopefully the children will give you some peace, I hope. But now, on to tonight's topic. We have Elise Springle. Knew I was going to get it wrong as soon as I looked at my notes. And Deanne DuPont, who are, Deanne is the president and co-founder of FoodLink, which is based in Arlington. We'll find out more about that in a moment. And Elise is the volunteer coordinator. Probably always looking for volunteers. So we'll find out about that momentarily. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you for
having
us.
Now it's your turn to talk. As usual, in all of my shows, I like to begin by getting to know my guests a little bit better. So can you guys give me a little bit of background information, where you grew up, how you came to the Arlington area, and kind of how we got into FoodLink and what exactly led you there?
Sure. Do you want to start? I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
start. So
Rock, paper, scissors.
Deanne DuPont, and I actually grew up in New Orleans. I went to college there at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And then in 1986, I migrated up here and had a good job opportunity up here.
Okay.
And so then I worked for quite a few years here, and then I was actually in financial services, having nothing to do with food. And then
Always happens that way.
yeah, and I was able to retire young. And then next thing I knew, FoodLink was born out of sort of by accident, where the other co-founder found out that one of the Panera breads was throwing away their bread most nights, and they have a robust donation program, and she came back and said, Deanne, let's do something. So we started working with Panera, and 3 months later started working with Trader Joe's, and that's how FoodLink came about.
Okay, well, we'll find out more momentarily. Yeah. And how about you, Elise?
Yeah, so I'm from Maryland originally, grew up on the Chesapeake Bay, did my undergrad at Ithaca College, and then spent 3 years in AmeriCorps doing work on food security projects in Norfolk, Virginia, and then in Indianapolis, Indiana. And realized that I wanted a graduate degree, so I moved to Boston for graduate school, like so many people do.
A lot of good schools around here.
Yeah, maybe, or something. So I went to BC and got my MSW, and I have a real passion for food security and sustainability work, and ended up at FoodLink as a result of that, and that's really what pulled me north of the city, and yeah, it's been a great time so far. I've been with them for about 7 months now.
Ooh,
yeah, so still kind of new, but we're also still pretty young.
Yeah, I was going to ask, let's back up. How did you, you started mentioning you heard about Panera, and when did all of this happen?
So it happened in March of 2012, so this month
so it is
we're
pretty
6 years young.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, thank you. And there was not any business plan or anything. We just knew that there was this good food that
Decent
was being
food, yeah.
wasted, and we knew there were hungry people out
Why do
there.
they throw it out? I mean, is it
Well,
just,
they had no one to collect it, to take
Oh.
it to another organization
Okay.
because you needed to be a nonprofit. So
Oh.
we worked with a couple of nonprofits that we could fall under their,
Okay.
they were our fiscal sponsors for this.
Okay.
But we said, there's a need for food out there, and then there's this good food getting wasted.
Yeah.
Let's just try to partially solve both of these
Hungry
problems.
people meet people with food.
Yes, exactly. And then it just kept
Now,
growing
was
from
it in
there.
2012 that you became a nonprofit, or is that when you first started the whole food
That's-
link?
Yes, that's when we first started. We first called ourselves the Food Recovery Project.
Okay.
And our name evolved. And then in September of 2014, we became our own nonprofit. We'd grown large
Excellent.
enough that
Okay.
we couldn't operate with fiscal sponsors anymore because we needed to do our own fundraising and such.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you have like a physical space, or do you still kind of, once you get the food, bring it directly to other food banks, or?
That's a great question.
That is a wonderful. That is a wonderful.
That probably
question.
wasn't on my list.
No, but I mean,
So, you wanna-
yeah. So we right now share space with the Arlington Food Pantry, which
Okay.
we're incredibly thankful for. But a lot of our deliveries go right away, straight from grocery store to distribution site, or
Okay.
to whoever's getting it. So whether
Okay.
it be the Boys and Girls Club, the Senior Center, or one of our
Okay, does it
other
always go
places.
to like an organization like the Boys and Girls Club, or do you work with like individuals?
No, we work with organizations.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but we are actually right now shopping for our own space because
okay.
we are certainly in a space that is too small for us, and we get to share it with someone else right now. So,
And
a
it's
delicate
slated.
dance.
And it's slated for demolition in about
Yeah.
a year. So.
Oh,
we-
yeah,
we-
that right there.
yeah,
Yes.
Hmm.
But yeah, we one of the things that we're looking for is to be able to provide more food to our recipient agencies,
Okay.
and in a more, let's say, a thoughtful manner. So we lack sufficient cold storage right now. So in the
Oh,
space that we plan to either buy or renovate, we
Okay.
haven't identified a place yet, is we plan to have 300 square feet of cold
Ooh,
storage.
of cold storage.
Of
Wow.
Cold storage, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So right now, are you doing like an immediate turnaround?
pretty much.
Yeah, we have
Oh,
three
okay.
three commercial refrigeration units, and
Okay.
that's it.
and a shelf.
And a shelf.
Yeah.
Shelves are good.
They are.
Okay, so tell me about, we started talking about food waste, which is kind of, you alluded to it, you mentioned it.
Yes.
Is it a big problem? I mean, how big of a problem is it? And is it just like our area? Is it nationwide? Is it worldwide?
So maybe
Tell
what
me
I
more.
could do is
Yeah.
tell you about it, U.S. and Massachusetts. and-
Perfect.
And Arlington. What I'd like to do is just read something to you, if that's fine
Yeah,
with you.
statistics are hard to memorize.
Yeah, so about 40% of all food is wasted in the United States. That's
All
any-
food.
All food.
All food
Wow.
From
waste.
farm, if you aggregate from farm to distributor, to retailer,
Wow.
to consumer, all along that chain, 40% of the food
That's-
that's produced is wasted.
That's scary.
Yes. And so what happens is hundreds of billions of dollars of food is spent to grow, manufacture, process, distribute, and then dispose of food that is never eaten.
Wow.
Yes. And then there's also the toll on the environment. Food decomposition
Okay.
creates methane gas, which is 25 times worse than carbon
Really?
dioxide. Yes.
Okay.
Um,
But like people compost and stuff, is that like,
that's very helpful. But
oh, that is helpful. I'm
that
like,
is- oh, that is
wait a minute,
no,
that's,
that's when it goes to the landfill. No,
Oh.
composting is different.
Oh,
Composting
okay.
is
All right.
good. Yeah,
thank you for
very good.
clarifying.
definitely.
I'm just like food in general getting thrown, Okay, continue.
Yeah. And then 1/3 of the United States fresh water supply and 300 million barrels of oil go towards the production of food that ends up wasted.
Wow.
So that's like taking
That's like throwing money away.
resources, yes.
Literally. Yeah.
And so those costs are
Okay.
embedded in the cost of our food.
Of the food that's of the 60% that's not wasted.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And I mean, those are pretty impressive statistics.
They're pretty scary
They,
statistics.
they are. They are. So here in Massachusetts, we're very fortunate to be in Massachusetts in that they implemented some what they call waste bans. So very large commercial universities, they have to either compost, divert to donate it to organizations like us. Their food that they are going to dispose of in some way that they don't need, surplus food for animals or for energy.
Oh. Now, do you know when that kind of started?
2012, yes.
Okay, because actually, when you're mentioning this, my son, his class went on a field trip to the aquarium, and they actually had a bin for composting in the cafeteria. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, no, that's...
So a lot of organizations are...
Yeah, so in Massachusetts, 25% of the food that is wasted does get diverted from landfills or from incineration. So it either gets composted, goes to animals, or gets converted into energy. So that's a good thing, and they have a
25% is still not.
It's still not
great,
but it's probably one of the top in the nation.
Okay.
And there's a goal by 2020 to bring that up to 35%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think it's doable?
I think so. I mean, yes.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, because Massachusetts is trying to do a lot in that space.
Okay.
They really are, and there are grants that they provide to communities such as Arlington, Burlington maybe have one of these grants. So through
a lot of restaurants around here now.
funding that, so in Arlington, 25% of their solid waste by weight is food, which in Arlington they pay for trash removal by weight. Okay, so Arlington is very interested in reducing their food waste. So in April,
get rid of the heavy stuff.
Yeah, they're implementing 2 public places that residents will be able to bring their food scraps, and it's going to be available for drop-off 24/7. And that's as a result of having a pilot program for about 2 years, where they gradually ramped up, where they just had a group of like 100 residents being able to drop off in one place.
Now, is this like stuff to be composted?
Yes.
So it's not the stuff that you guys would...
No, it has nothing. This is like your food scraps in your kitchen and things like that.
So instead of,
Yeah.
Wow.
So nothing like what we do, because we're
scraps, not like...
We're way above that point.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, but that's just about food waste and the issues around it and what.
So when is this program supposed to launch?
For in Arlington, it's next month.
Next month? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So soon.
But I think other communities are doing the same thing. In Cambridge, they have implementing, or they're launching curbside collection of food waste in a household level to try to divert that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for people who don't necessarily have the land to have their own compost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in Arlington, they do promote people using compost bins and things like that.
Okay.
And they have some resources for the residents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about how you and your co-founder found out through Panera, and how you kind of got this partnership going, and where did you find places to bring it to, like Boys and Girls Club?
So it's quite funny, because in the beginning, we have this great idea. We're going to, collect all this bread. So we started collecting bread, and then we go, well, where are we going to take it? We had a couple of small places, but the joke is, you'd come to my house and my living room was full of bread.
Food.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we quickly, within about 2 weeks, we got that logistics figured out. We
Okay.
started partnering very quickly with Bunker Hill Community College.
Oh.
And there's a
okay.
great need for food on, particularly in
okay.
community colleges campuses,
Oh,
but
okay.
all college campuses, there's an unmet need for
Okay.
quite a few students are food insecure.
Wow.
So we started
Okay.
partnering with them, and then over time we began to partner with the Arlington Food Pantry.
Okay.
We also started partnering with Medford Community Cupboard. So we began to find partners to
Okay.
receive the baked goods.
So most of them might be other food banks, and then, or is it just kind of a mix?
It's a mix. I mean, we have 30 different agencies that we work with.
Oh, okay.
And it's everything from, we work with a number of subsidized housing facilities in Arlington where
okay.
there's kind of these self-organized pantries that pop
Oh,
up
okay.
every week, to after-school programs, some shelters, food pantries. We work with 2 different senior centers,
Oh,
some
wow.
community meals, a whole variety of places.
We have some veterans programs.
Veterans programs, yeah.
Yeah. So, and just a little addition to the beginning, when we're trying to find places and such, 3 or 4 months into this, Trader Joe's contacted us and said
They contacted you.
they contacted us
Wow.
and said, would you start collecting our food donations? And this is how we operate in the beginning. We said yes, and then we said we'll figure out how we're going to do it, because now we have highly perishable food that we're receiving.
yeah.
But we said we knew we could figure it out, and we did. We
Okay.
did, yes.
Now, with the perishable food, how shelf life? I mean, how do you determine when it shouldn't be passed on? I mean, it doesn't really have an expiration date on it, or does it?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you tell?
Take that?
Sure, I can definitely take that. So, I mean, a lot of that with produce, it's a lot of visual inspection of like,
Okay.
you know, one bruise, not a big deal. You cut it off. But when the skin's broken, it's a little bit of a different story. So we work with our volunteers to kind of train
Okay.
them on what's acceptable, but a lot of our different organizations have different needs. So for example, when we're taking food to a place that's going to cook a meal, they don't really care if the produce is ugly. They're going to chop it up and cook it, versus some of the food pantries, they want really nice looking produce so that when their customers come in, it feels a little bit more dignified.
And they're also
and-
going to want to eat something that looks pretty.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of what we do too is challenging people's ideas of what is good food. So we send all of our volunteers home with the stuff that we've deemed still safe, but not pretty enough to give out.
Oh, okay.
So people go home and they cook apple crisps or soup or whatever it is and realize how amazing the food is despite the fact that it's ugly, and how beautiful it is in its own way. And we also, with expiration dates, I'm glad you brought this up, because a lot of people don't understand expiration dates.
Yeah.
We call them code dates, which is a like all-encompassing term for best by, sell by, fresh by, expiration, which are kind of a complicated mess of things.
Yeah.
But these are terms that, for the most part, are not regulated. They're more about moving food than they are about food safety. So
I thought it was a food safety thing.
Nope. For the most part, it's not. And so the Greater Boston Food Bank has actually come up with a whole matrix of extension dates on these things. So something like, one of the good shockers is always tuna fish. You can actually eat a can of tuna fish up to 5 years past the sell-by
You know, I
date
probably
on
still
it.
have some of that in my cabinet.
Yeah, exactly. And and these are the dates that the Greater Boston Food Bank is suggesting that they could still distribute the food to people who may even have health risks that would mean you really should be careful with it. So food it doesn't have
There's
an
a lot of
alarm
education
clock.
to that, though, because it's like if
Yeah.
I go in my cabinet and say,
Exactly.
okay, this expired 4 years ago. I don't think I want to eat that.
Yeah, so that's a lot of what we do with our volunteers too, is helping people understand that
Okay.
for both their own personal lives and for talking to their friends and family.
Oh, okay. Now, do you have it printed anywhere that you can distribute it, or is it just like word of mouth? And
The Greater Boston Food Bank, they have a matrix, and actually we brought quite a few copies so we can leave them with you. And also to add that, let's say in the more highly perishable food like lettuce and such, it's bagged produce. It's like Elise said, you do it by inspection. So today we received tons of arugula that was dated March 20th.
which hasn't shown up yet.
Yes, exactly. But it was very yellow inside, and we received maybe 4 cases of this, but it was because it was yellowing. So we try to explain to our volunteers on produce that just disregard code dates totally. Do your visual inspection.
Yeah.
Because if it's something that shouldn't be puffy and it's puffing and it's a week,
Or if it's supposed to not be yellow.
exactly. So we do this visual inspection. So just because something's dated a week later than today's date doesn't mean it's going to be good. Just because it's dated 3 days ago doesn't mean it's bad either.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. So you need to do those inspections.
You got to go both ways on that random date.
And prepared food that's something totally different, and
okay.
meat. And
Yeah.
we have different guidelines
yeah.
for that. For meat, the current guidelines are as long as it's frozen by the sell-by date,
Okay.
then it's totally fine.
Oh, okay. So what's in the box? Speaking
I was
of
gonna
visual
say, that actually
inspections,
would
I'm
be
like,
a
let's.
great moment to
Here, I'm going to move
look
your
at
water
that.
over
That's
here.
Thank you. Yeah. So we brought some things.
Let's do
that-
some visual
Yeah.
inspections.
Some of this we picked up today. Some we picked
Okay.
up a little bit ago. But for example, so here we have bread that we got today. We get a whole lot of bread because
Well, if you partner with Panera.
yeah, well, and this is probably Whole Foods. But bread, it goes stale, and people like fresh bread. So we get that on a daily basis.
So how can you? Sometimes you can't tell visually if it's
No,
stale because
you
it's hard,
squeeze it.
crunchy bread.
Squeeze it,
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's about,
Now, if it's stale, do you guys end up pitching it or
we compost it.
compost it? Oh,
Yep.
And
brilliant!
And the thing is, you're always doing a visual. I mean, you could look at this, and a loaf of bread could be dated the 15th, but we'll do an inspection and have mold on it. Well, we're not going to distribute
Yeah,
that, even
no.
though it's dated tomorrow.
It's green and furry.
Yep.
Yep.
yeah, and then we got these today. They are greens.
That doesn't look
Yeah, no, these are
anything
pretty.
wrong with it.
Nope, there was a little bit of some of them wilted in here and got a little bruised, but most people would just pull those 3 leaves
Yeah.
out. But for Whole Foods, it's not worth the staff time
Wow.
to do that. And plus, once they break the seal,
Yeah.
these are actually sealed in such a way to help maintain freshness longer, so
Okay.
they won't stay well as long, and also it takes their time.
And we get about, I think it's about 40% of the food we distribute and receive is fresh produce.
Wow.
So this is not, let's say, reflective.
And the other 60% is bread. No.
Wait,
Sorry.
You're going to see some of
I was
the-
going to say, thankfully, we get some different things too. So this one,
And there's a lot of lettuce in here. There's just
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
salad in here.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot
I've
of
bought one of these before, and it's like I have this big bowl of salad, and it looks like it's like
barely
pasta.
touched it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You're good. This is a can. We got it because
Okay.
it's dented. The
Oh, no.
date for this one, well, this one was January 17, but this will have, 3 years
3
on
years for canned veggies.
vegetables.
Oh, okay.
These are some of my favorites sometimes. This is for Halloween of this year is the date on it. This
Okay.
was just overstock.
Oh,
More than they could move. So we got a whole case of it today.
what is it?
Seaweed snacks.
And our children's
Our
programs,
children's programs love
love these, our youth programs.
Really?
It's a great,
See, my kids would say seaweed and go, ew.
Yep. And
Actually, I probably would do that too.
it's
All right.
delicious. But we brought also, this was meat. What was the date on this one? February 26th, but it's been
But
in
it's
our
frozen.
freezer since then.
Right.
Well, since before then. So we had that. We've got some other good stuff. and this was one of the ones that cracked me up that we got recently, which was a whole bunch of winter blend coffee, which we partly got because it was no longer the Christmas season, but there's an expiration date on coffee.
Really?
Yeah, which more than likely a coffee is not going to go bad in a way that would make you sick. It's just going to lose flavor. So we have a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, but
on.
a lot of people just dump sugar in it, and
Right.
you
Yeah,
can't
and-
really taste the flavor
Exactly.
anyway.
One of the things about code dates is that Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Wegmans, they want the customer to have a good experience.
Right.
Like in the case of a coffee like this, probably 2 months out.
Okay.
So they want to put a date on there so that if you buy it by that date, that you'll still have a good experience.
Exactly.
In this case, several months later, if you're
Oh,
buying
okay.
a cake, they don't expect you to eat that cake all in one day.
Oh, they don't know me
Although-
very well.
So they're expecting you to take maybe a week to eat your cake. So they want you to still have a good experience 7
Okay.
days later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about cycling product. It's about the way the grocery stores work.
Okay.
We're just kind of taking advantage of that space where we know food's still good.
Why not?
Yeah. And so we brought all of the food in a banana box because these are kind of our form of currency in the food rescue world.
Really? Okay.
They are how we move all of our food.
Okay.
So yeah, they are a major part of our life.
Yes, so we do.
Now, do you
trying
ever
to- I
get
was
like
trying to do-
bananas?
Actually, rarely,
about-
but recently we've been getting them more.
We do about 60 to 70 banana boxes a day.
Yeah.
It's about 1,300 pounds of food a day.
So in and out, or
Yep,
just
in and out.
Ah,
Yep.
Okay.
Which is the equivalent of about 1,100 meals
Wow.
worth of food every day.
That's a lot of food.
It's a
Yes,
lot of
it is
food,
a
and
lot of food.
we're not that large of an organization. So to do that much, there's still a lot of need out there as far as
Wow.
connecting more food that might be wasted to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Does that stuff need to be like refrozen?
Oh, we
like
have
they
it on
are,
a
or-
cooler pack.
There's
Oh, okay.
a gel pack in there, and what we can do is put this back in to help insulate that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So you get the stuff from the grocery store, from the bakery, from wherever, and you distribute it to needing organizations. Is there a cost to the needing organization, or is it all just like free?
It's free. One organization does give us a small stipend because we
Okay.
provide them a lot of services in addition to just the food. So we do
okay.
get a small stipend from that
Okay.
organization, but to all the other organizations, we provide this service for no fee at
Wow.
all.
So where do you get your money?
We-
Fundraising.
Fundraising,
Okay.
grants. We write a lot of grants,
Oh, okay.
fundraising, and donations from individuals
Oh,
and
okay.
family foundations. Yes.
What kind of fundraising do you do? I know that's the last question, but
Oh,
you
it's a
know.
good one.
That's okay. So we have about 4 fundraising events each year.
Okay.
A new one we're doing this year is called Cause an Event. It's a 5K race run
Ooh, okay.
in May.
Okay.
And-
Hopefully
and-
the snow will be melted by
Yes.
then.
So an individual just registers to walk, run, and half of their registration fee if they indicate it's for Food Link. It's for many organizations.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So this is a small one. Then we have a dinner called Rescue to Table, where we prepare a dinner mainly from rescued food,
Oh.
and
okay.
people buy tickets for this, and we have sponsors for it. But what we're trying to do is demonstrate to folks that the quality of food that we receive is good quality, and here is something that can be
okay.
done with it. So it's also an education
Oh.
as well as a
okay.
fundraiser.
Now, is it like a cooking demonstration, or is it just like?
It's a plated meal. It's served.
Okay.
It's served at
Wow.
a table. Yeah.
Now, do you have to be an extraordinary chef in order to fix this stuff? Because I'm like horrible
No.
when it comes to cooking.
I'm not a great cook, and I've been able to do some good things with some of the food. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. So then we have something called the Ride for Food.
Okay.
So people can let's say I'll call them volunteer to ride on our behalf. It's about 15 organizations that participate in this ride. They're all
Okay.
hunger relief organizations.
Oh, like riding is in cycling?
Cycling.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And you can be a virtual cyclist where you don't actually ride, but
Ooh,
you
that
help.
sounds tempting.
You raise money for
Okay.
us by soliciting friends and saying I'm supporting this organization.
Oh, okay.
Or you can ride the day, which has a 10, 25, or 50-mile ride you choose.
Okay.
Or you could go there and ride on stationary bikes if you want to as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're
The
very flexible.
idea is for all the participants who are, let's say, have our Food Link team.
Okay.
And then, let's say, if Elise is on our Food Link team, then she asks friends and family to help support her in this ride. And then
okay.
they make a $50 donation, a $10 donation, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a huge amount
Yeah.
of fun.
Probably a lot of
and-
work
and
to
that's,
get organized, too.
Yeah. Well, we don't do the organizing.
Oh,
Another
even
nonprofit
better.
does the
Yep.
organizing, and they, in exchange, ask us for 30 hours of volunteering. And then in the fall, it's not actually a fundraiser, but it's an event, we call it our celebration event,
Okay.
where people, there's no charge for the event to
Okay.
attend, but it's a chance for us to thank our volunteers and for other people to come find out more about us if somebody's interested in
okay.
volunteering. We have a lot of members of the community that like to come to this event. They may not be volunteers, but they want to get caught up on what we're doing. And the reason I'm including is because we do have sponsors for this event. So
Okay.
we do
Well, you'd also mentioned sponsors in general for Food Link.
for Food Links. Yep. So companies and organizations can sponsor one of these events.
Okay.
We also have a sponsor this year for some of the we have a Food Link van.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So some of the maintenance and insurance and upkeep of the van, one organization wanted to sponsor that.
Cool.
And as we start paying
Because how many
rent-
cases a day? Do 17? No.
60
About
to
60
70.
boxes.
Wow.
Like that, yep.
Will it all fit in a van?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So it's just the one van and
One
somebody
van.
drives it around to all these places?
Yeah,
and-
and
A
some
lot of
people
volunteer cars.
use their
too.
volunteers,
Okay.
and often we load it up and then we distribute, and then we have another collection. Like we have one collection at 7,
Oh.
another one at 10 a.m.
That's right. You got both directions.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then the days, every day is different. So even though we're giving you averages,
Okay.
one time we went to Wegmans and we received 1,000 pounds of meat.
Wow.
Well, that just about filled the entire van up.
Okay, everybody's
And,
getting protein.
Yeah. But we can accommodate that because
Okay.
we have our van and we just fill it up and then
Okay.
go unload it and fill it up again if we need to, because we're in a tight radius of the areas that we collect
Oh, okay.
from.
Because I was wondering how widespread. I mean, you mentioned Bunker Hill Community College, and was it Medford? No. Medford?
Medford Community
Medford. There's
College.
so many
Yeah.
There's
There's a
towns
lot of
around here.
Yeah.
So, in Arlington, so how widespread? I mean, are you hoping eventually to expand, or do you want like a satellite office? And I mean,
So we're really a community-based organization.
Okay.
We're based in Arlington right now, and about a little over 80% of our deliveries happen either in Arlington or one of the bordering communities.
okay.
But we do go as far south as we work with Bunker Hill Community College and the Tierney Learning Center in South Boston. And we go as far north as we have some shelters we work with in Lowell and some churches in Lawrence that have food pantries. So we do have some reach, but we
Okay.
really love being a localized organization
Yeah.
that, our volunteers live in the community and they are delivering food. They're picking up from their local grocery store that they shop at all the time and
Okay.
delivering food to a nonprofit that's down the street from their house. We think there's a lot of value in that.
Okay.
But we're really interested in helping other communities do that as we.
Okay.
That's
So you're
kind
like
of
the
our
pilot
view of-
program, and the train the trainer. So
Yeah.
you teach,
We're always happy
Burlington
to,
how to do that.
Yeah,
Lexington.
love that.
So you mentioned volunteers. How many volunteers do you have? I mean, is it like 3 of you, or is it like 100?
We have 150 folks who are
Holy
fairly
cow.
regular volunteers.
Okay, wow.
Um,
Okay.
We have almost 100 different spots each week that are filled. I have a lot of volunteers who do things more than one shift a week, way more than one shift a week. Deanne is definitely technically one of those. But yeah, so we have about 100 different spots each week we're filling with 150 regular people, and there's probably another 100 folks who have volunteered with us at some point in time or do things.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So what kind of time commitment would it be if somebody wanted to volunteer? Is it, do you have to do like 3 hours a week or 5 hours or 20 or 80?
So most of our shifts, I always tell people to plan for 2 hours, though they're often less. Most of my volunteers do it on a weekly basis or do the same shift every month. But some folks, they drift in and out as their schedules allow. One of the great parts of having regular volunteers is they are often there. One of the hard parts is they also take vacation and then you have to fill in. So we have a lot of folks who jump in when someone else is on vacation. But yeah, so most of our shifts are about 2 hours, depending on what it is. Some things take less time, like if you're just picking up from Panera in the evening and delivering it, depending on where you live and which Panera it is, it's pretty quick, versus Whole Foods, can be the full 2 hours sometimes.
Now, as you were talking, I just thought of this. We've had a lot of snow over the past week and a lot of power failures. I mean, how has that impacted your organization, with either food collection or the need that's out there? Because I know a lot of people lost power for 4 days and all of their food had to get thrown out because, it wasn't refrigerated for... How has that impacted you?
Well, we were very fortunate that where we store food did not lose electricity. So that was a huge plus. But we started collaborating fairly early on Monday for this past snowstorm, making a decision, and normally we keep operating if it was only, let's say, up to about 4 or 5 inches. But we knew it was going to be worse than that. So
24.
Yes. So when we went to Whole Foods on Monday in Medford, we told them we are not coming the next day on Tuesday. They know we're so reliable that they understood why we weren't going to be there. And so we alerted the grocers that we weren't going to be there. We had a contingent plan for Trader Joe's that we'd pick up at 7, that we would pick up Monday night. But when we called there, they said they only had 2 boxes. That wasn't worth us coming. So we said, okay, we'll just get it. Because the Trader Joe's in Arlington has very little storage, and we know that. So we understand they have to move out their donations quickly. And they were open today. So we started planning and letting our volunteers know ahead of time that we were canceling our operations on Tuesday.
Yeah, and on the other side with the folks who get the food, we really take it seriously that we are, the main source of kind of donated food for a number of the organizations we work with. So for example, on Tuesdays, we normally deliver to housing facilities that have seniors in them, and we knew that if we didn't get them Tuesday, they weren't getting food until Thursday when we came back. So we switched up our Monday plans and got them food that day. Today we were pushing out extra food at some of the other locations that we missed yesterday. So, we one of the good parts of being a small organization is we're very nimble, and we try to be very responsive to the needs of both sides that we work with.
Now, you are flexible, you are small, but when you are working with Trader Joe's or Wegmans or Panera, they're huge companies. I mean, how do you have to jump through, or what kind of hoops do you have to jump through to get these donations? Do you have to write a letter to corporate, or I mean, how does that work?
So each one is different. So with Trader Joe's, they asked us, they had a need. They were throwing away a lot of their food because they didn't have an organization, a regular organization to pick up. They had an organization, but they needed somebody to come every day at 7 a.m. and be reliable.
Oh, okay.
And so we said we would do that. And then 5 years ago, some of these corporate entities, maybe they supported food being donated, but they didn't have a real formalized program.
Oh, okay.
And now they're much more formalized. And
Okay.
but by the time they became formalized, we were a nonprofit and we were recognized as a food rescue organization.
Okay.
So we fit into their model.
Perfect. And it's great PR for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And each store does things a little different. Like
Okay.
Whole Foods, they have an organization called Food Donation Connection that helps manage their food donation program.
Okay.
Trader Joe's does things a little different. Wegmans, they actually coordinate through the Greater Boston Food Bank. So each
Okay.
one does things a little different. Panera, you do go through their corporate office, but it could be that you've made a connection locally,
Okay.
and then from there they make it happen.
Okay.
So like an example, two good examples. We don't normally do Trader Joe's in Burlington or Fresh Pond. Well, one of the managers at Fresh Pond knew us from when she worked in Arlington and knew that we were reliable. And it ended up one of their organizations that was collecting from them was not as reliable, or they weren't collecting all the food and they were throwing a lot away. And
Which
they
defeats the purpose.
Yes,
Okay.
so they said, could you come after the other organization comes and
take
pick up
their
the
leftovers.
rest?
Oh.
And they said it's going to be worth your while, meaning it's going to be more than 10 boxes of food. Wow. And we said, well, give it
Is
a
that
try.
much?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
It was 50 boxes of food actually.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So that was where the personal relationship, she already knew us. She
okay.
already had our cell phone numbers. And one of our volunteers made the connection for Trader Joe's Burlington. In some cases, it's a volunteer. We started working with Russo's because a volunteer sort of brokered that. She knew the owner. She said, let's get
That's
something
really cool.
going. In the case of La Patisserie in Winchester, they were looking for an organization to collect their food donations. So it happens in different ways. I was at a local small bakery cafe that had outstanding prepared food, and we were ordering for an event, and I gave my card and I said, if you ever have, this is what we do, if you ever have food donations, think about us. And like 2 weeks later they called us, and they've called us a couple of times since then.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's different ways that we connect.
Now, speaking of prepared foods, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you showed me was like prepackaged stuff ready to go. But what about like prepared meals? I mean, do you still, can you rescue that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we can, for the most part, we can. Like when we go to Whole Foods,
Okay.
all that stuff that you can buy that's in the little clamshells and all
Yeah.
that, we get that. The stuff on their hot bar, the stuff that's gone out on the hot bar, we can't take.
Okay,
because
like
there's
safety.
food safety,
okay.
temperature control, that kind of stuff. But they've got a lot of that stuff prepared in back that doesn't make it to the floor. So they
okay.
freeze that for us and we take it.
Cool.
Yeah, catering and restaurants is a little bit harder.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
something we're not as equipped to do.
Okay.
Sometimes catering stuff that didn't go out,
Okay.
things that were prepared and didn't go out, we can take. But that
Because you want to
gets
keep the
into a
Board of Health happy
temperature-
at the same time.
Yes. That gets
Okay.
into a temperature control, food safety piece that we don't have the capacity for at the moment. But yeah, a lot of prepared foods we take.
Neat.
And the thing is that we ensure that it stays in the safe zone so it's not being unrefrigerated or not being in cooler bags with gel packs, because it is amazing how cold, if you have thermal bags with a gel pack, how cold it will keep
Oh yeah.
the food.
Wow.
And we're delivering within 20 or 30 minutes, so you're not talking about
Yeah.
a long length of time.
Takes longer to
either.
get a pizza,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're delivering in about the time if you were to buy it at the grocery and then take it home. That's about the length of time. That
Not enough
we-
time for your ice cream to melt.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
No pun intended, ice cream cone. Sorry.
And then something we've done is we've experimented and learned what prepared foods can be frozen as well. So we get a lot of guacamole from Whole Foods, and
because some stuff's not really good if it's frozen.
Exactly.
So we have a lot of our staff meetings. We have taste tests of like, we froze this the other day. How did it defrost?
Yeah. I mean, it's not, for the most part, it's not a food safety thing. It's a texture and such like that. So if it was a food safety issue, I mean, it would have been bad when we froze it. So, because freezing stops all of your bacteria from growing and all of that. So if it wasn't safe when you put it in, then it's not going to be safe coming out. But if it's safe and it's kept at 0 or below in a freezer, you're good.
Now, speaking of safety regulations, I don't remember if this was on here or not. Do you need to have like any town licensing or inspections or anything, or are there certain rules that you need to follow?
So we're protected by what we do under, there's a Good Samaritan law. But one of those criteria is that you do work with your local health department. So we work very closely with the Arlington Health Department in what we do. And we also have 2 to 3 folks that are staff and or volunteers, maybe 4 or 5 now, that are ServSafe certified. And then we
That's
have
kind of what I was thinking of.
about a dozen volunteers that are food handler certified. So we had our own, we have somebody, a volunteer who is certified to train.
So kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know you can have your heart in it 150%, but sometimes you just don't know of things as well. Now, on your website, as well as some of the answers that you've given, you do more than just food distribution. What are some of the other things that FoodLink provides that isn't necessarily, the food transition?
Yeah. So we work with, three examples. We work with 3 programs. One is the Young Adult Vocational Program. And that's a partnership there. It's a program for young adults who's working through some mental health issues, but they are also encouraging job training. So they can be internship with us or volunteer with us to learn skills so that they can go and get a job. And we're very proud that one of these young men, and it could be a young woman as well, in the program actually got a job at Whole Foods. Through working with us. He met the hiring manager and that sort of thing, and he's still there 2 years later. Then we work with another program called Walnut Street Center for adults, handicapped adults, and they wanted to find meaningful work for these adults. And so they come and they'll help us with some of the maintenance and helping us with trash and things like that, and putting it out and helping us just maintain the space. And then we work with Douglas House, which is a program for people who have acquired brain injuries. And they reached out to us, and they were trying to find a job for someone to build up his credentials once again to get another job. And we're a safe environment for these individuals. So it's not that if there's an issue that they're not performing, by performing I mean if they're volunteering and then they go walk off and don't do anything, that's or they start eating the food right there.
You're eating the profits.
Right. So we'll talk to them, but so we've been able to provide these other services as well, and it's mutually beneficial too. It's not that we're not
because you get the help.
And in the case of Douglas House and Young Adult Vocational Program, they've also become food recipients too, so that they can enhance their program, have more nutritious food available.
Excellent.
And then maybe we want to go into some of those, maybe I'd get the seniors, and at forming their own food pantries.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So we work with 4 different housing facilities in Arlington that the residents have really taken the reins on having their own food pantry there. So we show up with the food, and there is someone there who helps us unload. They've got a team of folks who set everything up and really stage it so that their neighbors can come in. We even have folks we work with there who, they know that their neighbors will be unsure of trying something new, so they take it home first and cook it and give everyone taste tests. So it's been a real way that that the buildings can help build community.
And they're like vested as
Yeah.
okay.
So they really take charge of it. So it's a great way that we're kind of building community within these places. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun.
yeah, and then we're trying to do education. So we're working with the
Is that the Support Learn Connect thing that I saw on your website, or is that something else?
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay,
which
just
one,
keep going.
But
I won't pay any attention
yeah,
to these.
yeah. So it was. So we work with the recycling coordinator for the schools in Arlington, and we'll come in with their green teams and do a presentation, an interactive presentation. So it's not us just presenting. We'll bring in like a box like you might have here, but it'll have more fresh produce. The children try to decide, why did we get this? So we talk about food waste and things like that. So we work with Boy Scout troops and developed a program for the Boy Scout troops. It's a 4-hour program learning about food waste, recycling, because it's just not about the food too. We incorporate environmental sustainability. We recycle as much as we can. We reuse as much as we can. And then something we're just starting is the Habitat in Belmont is working on a program for the Belmont school system, and they've asked us to help support what they're doing as from the food waste perspective and help coordinate there. So there's this educational piece. So we'd like to develop more in the future. We hadn't quite had the capacity.
Well,
but
geez,
that's
you're
something.
only 6 years in existence.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
and the amount of food that you guys, I don't want to say turn over, but
Yeah.
redistribute is phenomenal.
Yep. Yeah. And right now we're a staff of 2.
Okay.
Soon to be 3. But so we have the other staff person, Kelsey's our outreach coordinator. So she really, she came on in November?
Yeah.
And so she's spearheading a lot of this educational work that we're doing in the community as well. Yep.
Yeah, and something that happens too is our volunteers. We form a community. Our volunteers sort of form their own community, and they become a resource for each other. So it's like more than just about the food. It's like
Now, do the volunteers get a chance to interact, or are they all off in different directions delivering?
Yeah.
No, they.
Our Trader Joe's, Whole Foods pickups, Wegmans pickups are all teams. And so we normally, it's somewhere between 3 to 6 people normally. And a lot of these teams have been working together for months, if not years. So they really have these like coherent groups that they get some real close friendships and things too. Whenever I have to jump in, because they're shorthanded, I almost sometimes feel like I'm invading their space, because I'm like, there's inside jokes here that I don't get. Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to volunteer, how would they go about? I mean, do you need a certain skill set to volunteer? And is it just food distribution, or do you have needs for other?
Yeah, we have a lot of different needs. So if someone's interested in volunteering, they can go to our website and click on Get Involved and Volunteer. And there's information there. It's also foodlinkma.org/volunteer. And our big volunteer opportunity is definitely food pickups and distribution. And that we train folks on. It's certainly helpful to be able to lift a box that's 25 to 40 pounds.
40 pounds is
Yeah, they're rarely 40 pounds, but we
Okay.
say that sometimes they are, so be aware. It's also useful to have a car, but neither of those are 100% necessary. But beyond that, we have other volunteer opportunities as well. We often need help with administrative tasks. We do another program called Date at Food Sorting, where all these different expiration dates,
Okay.
we have folks who can take them and folks who can't, so we do some sorting around
Okay.
that, as
And
well
do
as
they also use the Boston Food Bank
exactly.
chart?
That's what
to-
they use,
That's what
and
we
then
use.
they
Okay, on this it says.
when things are really past code date or really damaged, they depackage it, which is
Okay.
a real fun task for a lot of the kids that get involved because you get to pour it out and compost the food. And then we have a lot of outreach shifts as well. So we have tabling at events. We have a big one coming up, EcoFest, that we're looking for folks to
Okay.
help with.
What's
we're-
EcoFest?
It's a festival in Arlington Town Hall, right? That is
Yes,
all
yes.
about
Saving the
sustainability.
environment.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we also have, we're doing some food drives in April and May with Whole Foods in Arlington and Whole Foods in Medford that we need a hand with as well. So all that's on our website. People can click the orange button to fill out a form to volunteer or the green button for the outreach shifts.
Neat.
And I would say also, let's say if you have a certain talent, such as we have an individual who's an amateur videographer, but he is enhancing his skills tremendously.
Okay.
And so if somebody has a skill that they would like to bring to FoodLink, they could
Okay.
complete this volunteer intake form and then indicate, I'm a videographer and I'd love to do something for FoodLink.
Oh,
And,
cool.
or marketing or
Like,
things
help
like
you do
that.
PSAs or something.
Exactly, exactly. So that's just one example.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, we are just about out of time, but I definitely want to thank you guys
Thank you.
because it was just an accidental thing that I was doing that came across your organization, and I'm like, ooh, this sounds really cool.
I like
so,
to think so.
You mentioned Boy Scouts. I might be calling you for my Cub Scouts or my Girl Scouts because we're
Sure.
always looking for fun things to do.
That'd be great.
So thank you very much for tuning in, for coming, and I
Yeah.
want to thank everybody at home for tuning in. And I want to see one of these things in Burlington pop up. You guys can become a franchise.
Yeah, give us a call, we'll help.
Right. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. Hope you were able to stay warm, stay safe, and I will see you around town. Good night.